Tour de France 2025, Stage 9, 174 kilometers. And it was Mathieu van der Poel who nearly dominated all of those kilometers up until about 750 meters to go. We didn't know if it was going to be a bunch sprint or a Mathieu van der Poel celebration classic day. Well, in the end, it was a bunch sprint with Tim Merlier getting his second stage win over Jonathan Milan in the green jersey, and Arnaud Delis still coming on hot, growing every day in form, picking up third spot. And then I want to touch on the Intermarché team of Guilherme, who finished sixth, and what is Israel doing with Ackerman and Jake Stewart, with Ackerman finishing 12th. But let's roll it back. It was a long day out there, the hottest day yet in the Tour de France, finishing here in Châteauroux, and I'm inside the football pitch, the soccer pitch for us Americans, and right off outside is where the stage finished, a town made famous by Mark Cavendish, where he picked up his first Tour de France win and where he's picked up several others in his career before retiring last year with the record number of Tour de France stage wins. But we're here to talk about these riders today because right from the gun, kilometer zero, it was Jonas Rijkaard, Alpecin Deceuninck rider, who tacked off the gun. You can still see kilometer zero behind him. Then the big guy, the classic superstar, former world champion, Mathieu van der Poel, bridges up. We have two Alpecin riders up front for 174 kilometers. And for his part, well, Rijkaard got the most combative rider of the day, picking up his first ever Tour de France podium and probably eclipsing his victory, I think his only victory in his career, standing on the podium today. We spoke with van der Poel at the line. He said, well, the goal today was just to get Jonas on the podium of the Tour de France, and Mathieu said, well, we're gonna make it happen. So they attack. The group behind thinks, well, maybe they're just going for that, the green jersey sprint there, which I think is around 20 kilometers into the stage. But then, hey, guess what, Lidl Trek? You're trying to win with Jonathan Milan. You let this one slip out of your hands, because up the road goes, gaining nearly 5.5 minutes. I think it was 5.5 minutes. Mathieu van der Poel in the yellow jersey at one point, virtual yellow jersey, and Lidl Trek starting to be concerned. You heard over the race radio, the Lidl Trek DS said, hey, try to convince some of the other teams to work with you because we need to get this thing under control. Luckily for us, U.S. fans in the U.S. national jersey, the U.S. national champion in the jersey, Quinn Simmons, it looked like they were giving him a bit of a rest day today. So hopefully, he told me this morning he'll have a kick out tomorrow, perhaps if he's feeling it, or something in the second week. He said perhaps on Wednesday after the rest day, Tuesday. Lidl Trek doing the majority of the work all day. Then Max Schachmann from Soudal Quickstep goes up to help, one of Merlier's teammates. They dedicate a man in there. And we see some other teams kind of helping out, but the gap isn't coming down quickly. And up front, well, it's Rijkaard and van der Poel doing pool after pool. And it was touch and go. And we wanted van der Poel to pull this thing off because he made a great day out of a day that, frankly, we thought was going to be as boring as yesterday, at least for the first 5/6 of yesterday's stage until we had the sprint. Today, it was excitement from the gun and what the Tour de France deserves. Riders need to go out there on the attack, and today, well, we had the superstar Mathieu van der Poel doing so with Rijkaard there to help out Rijkaard, but there were some kind of messages going around here in the zone technique right over here where all the TV trucks are parked, whether or not van der Poel was doing this to get revenge on Jonathan Milan, who yesterday really elbowed him, shouldered him, elbowed him a few different times in that sprint, and van der Poel saying, hey, if you want to win today, well, you're going to have your team chase me all day. And if they catch me, great, but you're not going to have a team to do the sprint lead out. And if they don't catch me, well then, hey, fooled you, Jonathan Milan, and Mathieu van der Poel picking up the victory, but he just fell 750 meters too short. It was coming down. We had some incidents out on the road. We had the crash of Zimmerman, and earlier on before that, I don't think the TV cameras picked up the riders who were in there, but we saw a crash with 4 riders, including Søren Warnskjold, and so the Uno X team was going to have to go with their sprinter, the other sprinter, the young rider. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments, which I know you will. Stein, Friedman, their other sprinter, going for the sprint today, Uno X. Then we saw unfortunate news for João Almeida, who was involved in that crash a couple days ago, soldiered on yesterday despite the fractured rib and the finger that was hurting him. We spoke with him this morning. Also, he's feeling sick, so he may have something, and that's risky because when you're sick, you can pass that on to your other teammates. And of course, the race leader, teammate, Tadej Pogačar. Now, today's a GC, not a GC day. We're going to that tomorrow, so we're not going to focus on that too much, but João Almeida's now out, an important helper for Tadej Pogačar. As to, I didn't mention it the other day, Matteo Cattaneo, one of Remco Evenepoel's helpers, out. So it's the difficult days out here in the Tour de France with riders crashing or abandoning. And then we get into this section of crosswinds. Crosswind split everybody. O'Connor, Onley's caught out. It comes back together. We see Van Aert bridging up. Then we get another crosswind section with around 17 kilometers to go. Visma Leasebike, throwing down the throttle. They want to bring it back for perhaps a Van Aert sprint and just to show their dominance. They're helping do the job. And then finally we see Intermarché up at the front. Then we see Cofidis at the front. We're heading into these final 5 kilometers here to Châteauroux. About as touch and go for Van der Poel up there. Yes, he may be able to do it. No, he may not be able to do it. I speak with my colleagues out there on the finish line trying to watch the Jumbotron, and today I had a good view so I could see the details of what was going on. And then finally, Israel Premier Tech gets their train in order. We see them off on the right-hand side. Off on the left, it's the blue jerseys. I think it's Groupama FDJ working over there on the left. And then Jonathan Milan having to do things solo because remember, he burnt all of his teammates earlier. So we see that green jersey, again, freelancing, surfing the wheels as he did yesterday successfully. But today, not so. And it was chaotic there because at one point when we saw Tim Merlier surge, Israel Premier Tech on the right with Danny Van Poppel, Red Bull off on the right. We see Brian Coquard, we see Tim Merlier, and we see the big guy in green, Johnny Milan, nearly collide. Milan and Coquard, thankfully everybody stayed upright. We had a straight up sprint down the right-hand side. And that's where we see, I think it was Jake Stewart, all the way off on the left-hand side, throwing his arm up. I'm not sure if in frustration or saying, go Pascal, but I don't know. Honestly, I think Stewart should be doing these sprints. He showed in the Dauphiné, he's capable of beating Jonathan Milan. I don't think they should be working for Ackerman, who hasn't had his best Grand Tour form in a few years. And Jake Stewart is showing strong and showing capable. So let's see if that happens. Let me know down in the comments what you think, and let me know what you think about Biniam Girmay, who just doesn't seem to have it this year and is not picking up those intermediate sprint points that would have won him the green jersey as he won last year. Instead, we see the domination there from Tim Merlier because we see Jonathan Milan shooting up the right, but it's Tim Merlier who goes off his wheel, off on his left, and just outpowers Jonathan Milan for stage victory. And Arnaud Delis, as I mentioned before, Team Lotto, picking up 3rd spot on the day. And Pascal Ackerman, well, for him, all he got was 12th spot on the day. Right at the finish line, after the finish, we were able to catch Van der Poel, and he was cooling off, just collapsed on the ground, then got himself up, was drinking water, recovery drink, explained why he did it, what was the purpose, what was the motivation. He said, I wanted to get Rijkaard on the podium. And we responded, well, he did it. He got the most aggressive rider of the day. And he said, oh, I'm happy. There was a success then. Got Rijkaard over there sitting on the curb before we went up to the podium. And I asked him, I said, well, what was the reasoning behind doing this? Because you could stay in the bunch all day and try to set up a sprint for Caden Groves as the team did yesterday, or give us a show. And he said, well, we gave it a show because Caden Groves is not as fast as Jonathan Milan, and he even said it himself, so they could do that all day, sit in the bunch, and then perhaps Caden Groves doesn't even get the win. So this way, they're just throwing down the hammer all day. What us cycling fans love. What a great day of racing, brought to you by none other than sponsored by the big man from Holland, Mathieu van der Poel. The rainbow stripes around his arms, giving us all something to cheer out there on the roads as we raced 174 kilometers from start to finish on the hottest day of the Tour de France, finishing here in Châteauroux, stage 9, whilst Tim Merlier on top, Mathieu van der Poel giving us all a show, and yes, success, putting Jonas Rijkaard on the podium.